Hi, my name is John Mumba.
I'm Chileshe Mumba. We are the we are the Mumba. I don't
That
think he even remembers. Do you remember how we met?
I haven't sung in a, I haven't sung in a while. Okay. And she says hi to this guy. She says hi to me. I'm like, but
Who is this girl who dares not say hi to Arab?
no. I say.
No. Yeah. Undoubtedly. You're more money than me, sir.
Spend.
You spend more. You make more, you spend more. Are you sure?
I think I'm also sure. Because I deal with a lot of people. Oh, anyways.
Okay,
yeah, let's
no.
go. Hey. From you?
No, let's hear it from you.
No.
Please. Please.
I'll back you up.
Okay,
Don't
just
worry.
like
I'll do it.
second.
I'll do the
Just
the best.
one line.
Let's go. I haven't sung in a long time.
No, it's okay. Like, it doesn't have to sound perfect. I just want to hear.
Okay, start. Let's go. Yeah.
Okay. Mupashiwa mushilo mwile kanyente neka ulwendo lundetendeka tangile ninde konkamo. You said that line. So.
Woo!
Nalelo mule bomba. Nalelo mule bomba. Napana pene epomuli. Nalelo mule bomba.
Okay, my name is John Mumba. And this is my beautiful wife. And your name is?
You don't know my name.
Chileshe Bwalya Mumba.
Her name is Baby. My name is Chileshe Bwalya Mumba.
Mumba.
Mumba. Yes. Let's not forget the Mumba.
Oh, babe, I think this is your cue.
So we met in 2013. I think early April. Late April. Yeah, April.
April, yes.
Late April, because we officially met in March. No, actually.
Already.
January, February, March, April. I'm getting the months wrong. This is sad.
It's been a while.
So it's January, February, March, April, May.
It's May.
So yes, not
May.
March.
March.
So we met in May, a little before the 25th. I remember this because it was my mom's. That's my mom's wedding anniversary. My parents' wedding anniversary. But anyway, we met briefly. Actually, no, I saw him from a distance. I don't think he even knew I existed at that point. Then on the 25th of March is when we were introduced to each other. Like, oh hi, this is John, this is Chileshe, and we shook hands. And the first thing I said to him was, your hands are warm. And then I was asking him, I'm like, that was so awkward. But okay. Then he went to meet his dad, because this was at his family wedding. And then the next day, we met again in church.
Church, yeah.
And then after church, I was like driving in the car. I remember this so vividly because I was listening to Alumboy. Alumba, 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 alumba. And then he came to the car and he's like, oh, it's happening in this car. I was like, yeah, join us. And I said it as a joke. I must emphasize. Yeah. I said, you can join us. But at the time, because both of us were not driving at the time, I was in my cousin's car. He was supposed to have gone with another group of friends. So he went and told them, oh, I'm not going to go with you guys. I'm going in the other car. Because we had discussed that we were going in the same route anyway. Right. Even though we're going to Munali, but we had a detour to Chongwe. But he still chose to come with us. Anyway, we're not going to question that.
Right.
However, we had a really interesting first conversation. Do you remember what we talked about?
I think we spoke about a lot of things. Eh?
Mm-hmm.
I think we spoke a lot about... Okay, we started to talk about school. Because I just recently came back from school. What else did we talk about? We talked about food.
Yes.
Talked about food. I actually asked you a question. How would you describe yourself, right?
This was okay. Yeah. So
yeah,
this is the thing with men and like you're skipping the details.
Uh-huh.
So we went on the way to Chongwe and back.
Right.
We like had a whole lot of conversation.
Right.
And when he was telling, he had just come back from University of Cape Town. So in my head, from the way he was talking, it's like he hadn't been in Zambia for a very long time. So I assumed that, maybe he lives in South Africa and whatever. Right. So I think I mentioned that I will take you to the Copper Belt one day. Right. And you said, I'll take you to Cape Town. And
right.
you said, I need to take you to Cape Town. And I said, I need to take you to the Copper Belt. Which we have fulfilled at this point, 10 years later. 10 years later. I took him to the Copper Belt, he took me to Cape Town. But we stopped over at Manda Hill that day. We were in ShopRite. I was buying ingredients for a specific meal that I wanted to make. And absolutely randomly, I'm picking up a block of cheese. And this guy grabs my hand and pulls me and says, how would you describe yourself? I'm like, this is so weird. But yeah, I was like, okay, I don't know if this is the right place for this conversation, but I responded anyway. And this was a Sunday, and my phone was off that day. This was a BBM era. My phone was off, and we were with my cousin, like I said. So he got my cousin's BBM pin. And I remember my little cousin, Bunny, she's not little anymore. She's in the corporate world. But at the time, I think she was like in primary school or high school or something. She assumed that we knew each other for a long time because of the way we had been conversing.
Right.
So anyway, they exchanged the pins. And as soon as we got home, I charged my phone. I got the pin from my cousin and we were like chatting away. The whole time, like very platonic conversation, and he was telling me dry jokes and I was laughing at the dry jokes and telling him dry jokes also. Right. I remember I said, tell me a story, and he says there was Kalulu. I said that was
not for TV.
That was Kalulu and the carpenter.
This is not for TV.
What?
Right.
I don't even know what Kalulu and Carpenter were doing together. But anyway, I was just like, you know what? I don't know where this is going. And yeah, we laughed about it. We're chatting all through the night, 4 a.m. until the next morning. And we both had to go to work the next day. Right. At the time, though, I was being pursued by someone else. And then I think that Monday we met up, we linked up, we had a conversation, and I think I automatically friend zoned him.
At the mall?
Yes. We took a walk at the mall, we had a chit chat. It wasn't a date, it was just like, oh hey, who who are you? Let me get to know you.
Right.
And I think I almost kind of automatically friend zoned him based off of some of the conversation we had that day. And I think he was also just like not trying to get into a relationship, because then later on, I think 2 days later, he then opened up and said, I'm actually seeing someone. And I was happy because I was like, okay, I'm not in a space where I want to be in a relationship right now. So this is a good thing. So I can set a boundary with this relationship. So I think from that point on, we did set a boundary in our relationship. We just became very good friends. The weird thing though is that like almost every day we were together. Like he was at my house, and not like at my house with me alone. There was always like other friends and stuff at my house from church. So like for him it was I'm hanging out with church people, and also he was like me, a new convert. So or like a reborn at that point.
Like a rededicated.
Rededicating his life to God. So now he's like finding Christian friends and stuff. So he was always at my house. And I think at some point I was like, this is weird for a person who is in a relationship. Like what?
Right.
Like how come you're always here? So then what did you tell me?
What was that relationship that took me to church actually?
Yeah.
I think we're in a space or that relationship where we're not in a good place, and we're trying to find solutions. And among the options that we had was to go to church, because obviously we both also had a spiritual background and a consciousness of God. So we thought, okay, we've talked, we've done this and that, but there was still no peace, there's no proper solution. So you're like, okay, maybe let's go to church. And I grew up in a traditional church. I don't know if I can say I didn't believe in fire prayers, prophets, and things like that. So then it came on the table. I was like, maybe. You know, I was looking for solutions, and it so happened that my cousin had a church then. So I was like, I reached out to him. I was like, I really need some counsel in terms of my current situation. And so he said, come to church, we'll pray about it and the like. So the interesting thing is, the more I pursued spiritual solutions, the relationship was getting worse. Like there was just a lot of, it was like it was going in an opposite direction, which I couldn't understand, because we both agreed and said, okay, you go to your church, I'll go to my church, then let's find a common ground. So in the process of that, the relationship didn't work, in short. And I decided, like, oh, okay, cool. I found myself in a place where I was like, oh, now I feel like I want to grow as a Christian. I just want to focus on me, rediscovering my faith as well, and also being away for some time. I was not very committed to the faith. So that process also actually took me closer to God, you know, in terms of just rededicating my life and focusing on God and wanting to pursue God first before anything. And I was not even thinking of getting into any relationship or anything like that. Then, and I met her in the process.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a specific time, a specific date, or like a second and say, she's the one. It's very difficult to place it in terms of a specific location. But I believe it was a process of getting there, in terms of obviously getting to know who I was in terms of my position also as a Christian, and getting to know her as a person. So I wouldn't say there was a specific date, but I think there were situations or circumstances that led to me believing that this is the person I want to spend my life. The first time she ignored me. I don't like being ignored.
No, he's used to getting attention.
No, not that.
He's used.
Let me explain what happened.
No,
so that was that Sunday.
The very Sunday
that I got a ride from.
Yeah.
So I was with a friend of ours.
Yes.
I think those were a few people that I knew then in the church.
I also mentioned that the friend of ours was like my friend longer than.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
So I see this lady walking towards us. So I knew he knew her. Okay, but wait, before that, I actually noticed you in church because you're leading that Sunday, right? Yeah, I was like, who's this person singing? I go, okay, cool. It's just one of those.
He was the tallest person in church.
People.
So obvious. And he was standing at the back.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable that he could see me.
Yeah. So she's coming down towards us and she says hi to this guy. She says hi to me. I'm like, but
who is this girl who dares not say hi to Arab?
No. I say, this one has got a lot of energy, this one. Okay, cool. All right. No hi, no hi. So like, okay, interesting. Yeah. So I think I noticed her then. I really noticed her that day because I actually looked at her when she was walking towards us. Like, oh, okay. All right, no, but I need to focus on me, focus on God, you know? But then, obviously, the part where she didn't say, I was like, okay, so we're not so social here. But anyway, so yeah, I think I noticed her then. That Sunday, I think that Sunday was different because she...
answered the question.
What was the question?
What drew you to me?
I'll be very honest. It was your voice first. Obviously, it was your voice.
That's the first time hearing that.
That's voice. Yeah. Obviously, your physical appearance as well. Yeah.
Give me more.
Huh? I mean, I'll be very honest. Those are the first two things.
What drew me to him? Obviously, the first time I saw him, I was seated at a table with his cousin, and when they walked in, he walked in with, this was at a kitchen party, so he walked in with the groom, and I actually made a comment. I said, "Who's that guy?" And his cousin was like, "That's my brother. He's single." I think she didn't know he was in a relationship at the time, and I was like, "Oh, no. I'm just asking to appreciate the creation of the Lord. I'm not asking because I'm interested." And then I saw him at the wedding, and he was in a suit this time, and I was just like, "Father God, I am your child. Lead me not." He looked really good in a suit, I must say. But then when we got speaking, I think I was just intrigued with his personality. He's very different. People think my husband is an introvert, but he's really not. He's like a balance of both introvert and extrovert. He just needs the right environment to be an extrovert, and I think he's very... He likes to clown. He likes to like make people laugh and things like that. I think even like the people he works with can tell you like he's serious, but like he's not gonna like even like subordinates. He will treat everybody with respect and love, and he will laugh with everyone. He will joke with everyone. When it means business, he means business. But like he makes everybody comfortable around him. So I think that was one thing that was intriguing because most times. Like even the person that had been pursuing me at that time, it's like men will always come with this like I'm a man, I'm looking for a wife, and I'm shiny, and you kind of like it was different for me because I was used to that kind of environment where someone is just trying to like be over you. But I guess we were building a friendship at the time, and obviously the goal at that point wasn't a relationship. So it allowed me to get to know his personality as a person and for us to get to build a friendship, which has really been very helpful for us over the years. When did I know he was the one? I had feelings. At some point, I developed feelings for him, which were stronger than my desire to just be like, Lord, I don't want a relationship right now. So I had to go back to God. And I think at that point, I had reached a stage in my relationship with God where I was just like, Lord, your will over my life supersedes anything else that I want. So if I'm for me, marriage was one of the biggest decisions I've ever made. And if I'm going to make that decision, it has to be beyond what I'm seeing with my eyes. It has to be beyond what I'm feeling with my emotions. It has to be beyond what I'm feeling with my heart. I wanted it to be permitted by God. I needed God to tell me, go ahead, take the step forward. So I remember asking woman of God at the time, I'm like, okay, is he the one? And she was just like, you know what? Pray, ask God. He will answer you. He's faithful in answering. And I'm really, like, in hindsight, I'm grateful that I was not told by a person, like, this is the one. I thank God, because there's a process and a season that God took us through in our, like, transitioning from being friends to becoming a couple, to getting into courtship and getting married, where even God shaped my own character. At some point, obviously, he had, when he talks about him going through the process of trying to work on his relationship, all of this was happening simultaneously to me building a friendship with him. So even when he was showing up at my house every day and I'm asking him, like, why are you here? Why are you not with your partner? And he tells me, oh, things are not okay right now. She doesn't want to see me. She doesn't want to speak to me. So I'd rather be in an environment where I can hang out with my fellow believers and not just be, like, locked up by myself. So, funny story, I began to counsel the relationship from his end, obviously, giving him tips on, no, maybe do this, maybe buy flowers. I started to pray at some point I even fasted for this relationship, because I was like, he's a really nice person, and I think, he doesn't deserve to be going through what he's going through. And also from a female perspective, seeing how he was being, I don't want to say rejected, or like just being maybe like kind of pushed to the side, I felt like I was feeling bad for him. So I would like just try. At some point, me and my cousin dropped him off, take flowers. We were about to leave, then he calls and says, no, like, can I just go with you guys, because she's now busy, she doesn't want to see me. And I'm just like, oh, shame, man. So going through all of that and then getting to a point where, like, I'm now getting married to this person. Wow. God took us through a process, through a season where the relationship that ended almost came back. And this was at a point where now we were getting to a place where, like, okay, we've now discussed, oh, I have feelings for you, but let's, pray about this whole situation. Then the other person comes back and says, hey, we have unresolved issues. So now, the me that was Tefionali, ideally would have been like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. I don't got time for drama. Get out of my face. I don't, But I believe the Holy Spirit was teaching me to just manifest the fruit of the Spirit, to show patience, kindness, long suffering. And everything that is embedded in the fruit of the Spirit, because God showed me in a dream what would happen, what would come, what was going to come, and the battles that were coming forth, and the things started to manifest. For me, that was just like, whew, okay. So I just have to trust God. I have to trust God. Things started happening to a point where, like, in my dream, I dreamed that I'm with him. There's my family. He's laughing and talking with my family, but he's not talking to me. And this thing comes and manifests, and I'm just like, oh, okay, wow, this is strange. But, like, why are you here? This is my family's event. And you're not talking to me. It's a whole lot. I mean, I think we should make it a movie, but but I realized later on that God was just trying to teach me to be patient, to be kind. I remember going through a point where I really could have just said, just avoided him completely, but I was still like, for some reason, I was still concerned, and I was still just like checking up. Are you okay? Have you eaten? We're still going to church together. We're still doing activities together. And I think only at a point when I got to a place where I started to struggle to pray and worship is when I said, I need to step away from this situation, because I think you can mess with my personal emotions, you can mess with, my mental status, but like my relationship with God, that's where we draw the line. So then I told him, I said, look, I'm just going to take a step back. And if you find me available, awesome. If not, it's wild. And yeah, I don't know if that influenced your decision, but I guess at some point he did come back and he said, look, I have peace when I'm around you. I mean, there's things that I can say from my perspective that I would feel would draw a man towards one direction. Because let's just put it as it is. He was in a dilemma. Like, which way do I go, this way or that way? And then eventually he had to choose, and he, obviously chose me.
I think for me, just the perspective of a relationship was always supposed to lead into marriage. And even the previous relationship that didn't work out, that was the goal, that was the vision. So, and hence the whole trying to find solutions and the like. But yes, I think that was one of the most difficult decisions, I'll be very honest, that I made. It was so hard. I couldn't even believe, like, why is it so difficult? It's just A or B. But it was so, so difficult. But then I realized, obviously, after I made the best decision, why it was difficult, because it was a destiny thing. It was something that was not light in terms of the gravity of the consequences of my decision. So yes, as she's explained, we got to a point where this person comes back. Okay, so I get to know her. We are now vibing, obviously, in terms of on a personal level. And yes, I get close to her, but obviously with our boundaries and the respect of each other and the like. And this person comes back and says, I want to work things out. I'm like, okay. And like everything I had prayed for, like, in terms of finding a solution on that side, it sort of came. Okay, so you have answered prayer, the person is back, the person wants to work things out, then now you have something special that you have met. Okay, so I had to make a choice. And it was so, so difficult, even through counseling, because obviously I did seek counsel from my cousin then, who was the pastor. So this is the situation. And he told me the same thing. Let's pray about it and things like that. But even still, I prayed about it, but there was just no clarity. And I think there was a time when this person now would literally even come to church, come for rehearsal.
Listen, it's making it sound nice. It's like, wherever you're going, I'm going. I'm following you people. Like,
but it's the same thing I'm saying.
Yeah.
So in short, they came back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they came back.
They say by fire, by force.
Yeah, they came back. I was like, hey, what's happening?
Also, I had a dream about this. I had dreamt that she came back and basically she felt like I was stealing her man. In the dream, she was saying, you've stolen my man and I'm coming to get him back. And the same energy she came with in the dream, she came with in the flesh. And it was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was really at a breaking, because it also affected her then. Because now she was, that long suffering, it had gone. She could tell visibly, emotionally, that it was also stressing her. She just wanted also some clarity in terms of, okay, this person is back, obviously, what's the story? Okay, so now it's her end and it's the other end, and it's me now to make a decision. Yes, we thank God. So I prayed about it, and for me the revelation was, if this is what happened in the past, what would stop it from happening in the future as well? And also, what the place that we got to, like she said, there was a certain peace and assurance of a person that I wanted to spend my life with. And make this big decision. So then I was like, you know what? This is the way forward. And and I decided. Do you remember when I said I want to spend the rest of my life with you?
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
We were in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
I was cooking. You showed up randomly at my house.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's so complex but simple. No, it is not the food. It's so complex, but again, because a lot of things
You were
obviously.
seated by the sink.
No, I'm not seated by. Oh yes, I was.
Yeah.
But it was just the day I really had to make that decision and say, okay, this is what I'm going to focus on, and yes, I chose her.
I mean, I did. The flesh is the flesh. It easily succumbs to fear sometimes. But again, for me, I think I tried to manage all of that. Because I remember, let me give you a scenario. We have agreed, okay, we have two options today. I think that was the Hatongo's wedding day. We went to church and we were not sure if we were invited to the wedding. So we're like, if we have a card for the wedding, we'll go to the wedding. If not, we're just going to go see a movie. It was Grown Ups 2. Had just been really women and details. So we get to church, we've agreed, we had a good time, rehearsal was amazing. We're about to leave for at that point we had decided now, okay, we're gonna go see the movie. So we've called the taxi driver. He's on his way to pick us up.
Right.
And then this man comes to me and just says, so she says she's following wherever we're going. So I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, she's here and she says wherever we're going, she's going. I'm like, okay, right.
That was at rehearsal, right?
Yeah. And then, so we are not in a defined relationship. So I don't have like a claim over him where I can be like, no, just tell her to go. He's still in that space where he's like trying to figure out what, he's going to do. So, and this is, again, if Tefionali me would have just been like, you know what, get out of here. But we got in the car. All of us, all three of us. We got in the car.
Awkward.
Yeah, extremely awkward. And at some point, they're conversing and I'm just like, you know what? Drop me off. I think you guys have your conversation, figure out what's going on with you guys. I don't want to be...
Actually, we dropped off.
No. Did you? Oh, yeah. I ended up leaving you guys at Monali. Yes. And then I went home. So I went home. I switched off my phone because I started typing. So when I noticed I was typing, I said, no. Let me switch off the phone. Let me go see the movie. I went and I saw the movie by myself. And I came back home. I switched on my phone and I found a long apology about what had happened. And this is why I say it's the Holy Spirit, because my response was like, man, you missed the movie. You would have loved it. Because I was just like, this is not me. The me that I know, the me is just, I'd have had a lot of things to say. But it's like, even whilst I was at the movie, God was just showing me, look, don't react. One, first of all, you don't really have much of a place to react. You can hold people accountable for, whatever is hurting you, but you're not gonna react like a wife or like a girlfriend. But then also at the same time, I think that was the point when I said, I struggled to pray that day. And that's when I think I came back and I said to you, this is affecting my prayer life, this is affecting my relationship with God, right. And I think I'm gonna take a step back until you're kind of like sure where you want to be. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to be friends anymore. It just means that there's going to be, like, we're going to rebuild certain walls that were broken. The certain boundaries that were broken, we rebuild them until a time when you figured out, what's going on.
The text message was an apology for...
He was apologizing for the scenario. Basically, like, I should have handled things better.
Yeah.
Like, we had plans, and I shouldn't have allowed for this person to come into our plans and break them. Because she also doesn't have a claim over me. They're broken up at this point. but because he didn't exactly handle things, he didn't set his boundary with her. Yeah. And that affected the fact that he didn't set the boundary with her, it affected me. And he was apologizing for hurting me, not necessarily
making the decision.
Yeah, it wasn't a decision or defining moment. I think that happened maybe like a few weeks later is when he came and he said, look, I think, yeah. And also, it's funny because I feel like we are similar but very different, her and I. I guess, yeah. I mean, similar in terms of she's a singer.
Oh, right.
She's a believer. She loves the Lord.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, it's like you're so close, but you were like just going in the wrong direction.
So I had to then communicate to the other lady with regards to where I was at, and
yeah, because you told me and I said, does she know this is your decision?
Yeah, I don't think I actually met her in person. It was via text again.
Sent her a text.
And for me, that was also just confirmation that, okay, this person might not be the right fit, because a conversation like that, you would want to meet someone in person and just say it to their face. But they're okay for me to just say, okay, listen, I feel I'm in a different space and I want to focus on obviously my Christianity and my walk. And yeah, and they were like, okay. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And that's how eventually it just moved on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
almost instantly.
It was, yeah, like, yeah.
It was done.
It was
I think
shockingly, actually.
I believe, when it comes to communication with people, once you set a boundary and you're clear about it and you work towards, how do I put it? If I tell my neighbor, don't cross this wall, and you make sure that you put a sign, they're gonna respect it. If they try to come across and you make it clear to them, you take action to keep them from crossing that boundary. It eventually someone will make it clear. I think usually what a lot of people struggle with when it comes to setting boundaries is an issue of you've set a boundary but you're still allowing people in your space, and sometimes people will just try to poke just to make you, just to try and break you. But once you've set certain boundaries and you've made it clear, you don't allow the boundaries to be broken. People will stay out of your space. And when boundaries also are communicated clearly and effectively, that helps. Yeah,
and I think her response, I could be wrong, for me was like, this person probably moved on a long time.
Right.
You know what? Because you would expect the same energy they had before I made the decision to move on. Maybe even be like double, triple. But the time I communicated, it was like, okay, cool. So I was like, okay, I guess it's a win-win for everyone.
This was around, Mariah?
Was this all 2013?
Everything happened. It sounds like it was like 4 years, but it literally happened in the space of, this is May. Mariah's wedding was in August 3rd. That's the time we're not speaking at my cousin's wedding. And I told him I'll take you to the Copper Belt. So that's when I took him to the Copper Belt. So May, June, July, August. September is when we were prayed for. 5th of September. We were prayed for, ushered into courtship. And then we got engaged on December 20th the next year. 2014. And we got married 2015, 5th of September. So 2 years exactly from when we got into courtship.
From my side, I was very shocked because it was easy. because my mom is very, very protective. She's very, yeah, she's a mom.
He's the last born. He's the only son of 2 children. So you can understand.
I was really shocked. Like, even when I was telling my mom I want to settle down, she was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Okay, yes." Like, oh, we want to meet her and just, get a feel of who she is. When are you going to bring her home and things like that? And it was so.
And that was a culture shock.
It was so easy, for lack of a better way of saying it. There was not so much resistance on my side, which I thought there would be. But yes, I just spoke to my parents. I sat them down. This is what's happening, and I was like, I want to settle down, and this is the person that I want to settle down with. There's a brief background of them, and they were like, okay, sure, let's meet this person. So I think, it was very seamless, actually.
My family loved this man the day they met him the first time. My siblings, everybody just like, they loved him. Even when we were going through that whole trial and tribulation, everyone was just like, yeah, no, we don't care about what you like. My brother is just like, I want to watch soccer with him. I'm like, bruh, like, we have a situation. And he's just like, oh yeah, where is he? Why isn't he here? Yeah, like, they've been in love with him since, they were just, they embraced him from day one, and they still love him.
Oof, it was...
Ask him about his speech when he proposed.
Babe.
Doesn't remember. What did you say?
That speech was spiritual. I think I was speaking in tongue. An Arabic tongue. But to the question, it was magical. It was like you've never been married, so like there's a whole ball of emotions. But I didn't cry. Please record that I did not cry. But yes, seeing her walk down the aisle. What song was playing again? What was your song?
Limbo.
Yes, so...
No, Blessing Me, sorry.
Oh, it was Blessing Me.
Yeah, blessing me every
Yeah, no, it was for me, that's when the decision actually sunk in, like, okay, I'm actually getting married, because it's like being married, being a parent, being different hats. I don't think it sinks in the minute you decide or to get on a certain journey, but as events unfold, it sort of gets deeper and deeper. Like, oh, okay, now I'm a father. Okay, I'm actually a father. I same with when I saw her walking down the aisle. I was like, oh, okay, this is really happening, and yeah, it was beautiful.
I think for me, I've shared a lot of times how marriage at some point was not part of my agenda. I'd made a decision, I think when I was like 17, 18, I said, I'm not doing this marriage thing, it's a scam. Yeah, everybody's miserable and sad. I'm not gonna do it. So to get to a place where God just transforms your life, first of all, transforms your mindset, and just allows you to see love differently, is a blessing, because I had known many, not only, but I had known many bad relationships. Even in my own experiences in the past, I'd just never experienced a friendship like I have experienced with him. In a relationship, it was always somebody is the boss, the other person is there. So it felt surreal. It was amazing. I just saw God's glory in all of it, and even just the testimonies leading up to the day of our wedding. It's like God did so much that even we just, you can imagine being in meetings and you're demanding things that you don't even have the money for, right. But God makes provision for those things. 100%. And you're just like, wow, this is like literally God in the details. And yeah, it was a blessing. I was just overwhelmed with joy. I was overwhelmed with just how people that I hadn't spoken to in a long time were just like, you're getting married, I just want to be a part of this. How do I be a part of this? We didn't have to go knocking on people's doors for help. The help was coming to us. So for me, that also fulfilled. And like, I think earlier you had asked, how did I know he was the one? God showed me in a dream. And I think that's what, it gave me ease when I saw in the dream us doing like family life together. And it made it like, it just made me find peace and comfort. And so even walking down the aisle was like, God is a part of this. God has allowed it, and he will definitely always be at the center of it. And yeah.
Babe, relax. No, we've been married for 9 years. It'll be 10 in September.
Yeah. Well done, babe.
In September.
Okay, but how long have we been together?
It's an additional 2 years.
That one's easy because we always just add
That's
plus
12
2.
years. Yeah. So I've known her for 12 beautiful years. We've got 2 beautiful kids. Our firstborn is Judah. He's 8. And our lastborn is Yada. She's 1 year. She's turning 2 in March. Yeah.
Well done.
It's a lot. I think I don't speak about the obvious things. Like obviously I love her. We have a very common ground, that's the Christianity. And she mentioned something very crucial in any marriage is the friendship. But I think another tool that is very, I don't know if I can say looked down upon, is community. I think we have a very, very strong community. When I talk about community, I talk about family. I talk about church. Though we don't have a lot of friends, I don't have a lot of friends, maybe she does. But there's something about the community that helps the institution of marriage and the friendship in the marriage. So you find these are places and spaces that help you in terms of whether it's you need to speak to someone, you need to get counsel, you need to get wisdom. So I think we have been surrounded by a very strong community that has really helped us through these years. And that's what I wanted to focus on in terms of what has really kept us together for this long.
I'll try and summarize it. But when I was, I think 18, I went to the hospital one time and doctor just, after being examined and whatnot, the doctor just said to me, forget about having children. And he was just as bold and blunt as that. It was like so mean-hearted. I remember that man. I remember his face. I've forgiven him now, obviously, because I understand that he obviously just didn't have the Spirit of God in him. So I had it in the back of my head that, and obviously there were other factors like having an inconsistent cycle, just so many things that were drawing to the fact that it would probably be impossible by human standard to have children. But I remember one time, I think after we got engaged, we were at fellowship in Thorn Park, and Prophetess Adele, who is now in another church, she had prayed for me, and she, just spoke the word of God, and I started to see the manifestation. I guess from that point, I didn't realize it at the time, but then things like my cycle became consistent from that point on, and then obviously we got married, and almost instantly, because at that point, even when we were getting married, it was like, we're gonna wait 2 years to have children, so I get on contraceptives. And, I guess I don't even know why at that point getting on contraceptives, but I was just like, maybe it was my faith, which I didn't necessarily personally exercise. But I guess getting on the contraceptive was another way for God to show us the miracle that this was His doing and not our own. Because even how we found out that, we're expecting, We went to Kitwe. Man of God tells us, "Oh, you will know by February that because he asked us, when do you want to have children?" He said 2 years from now. He's like, "Oh, is that God's plan?" And we're like, "Well, okay, yeah." Come February, first of all, I go to the hospital. They're telling me you have cysts. They tell me come back 2 weeks later. They're not giving me medication for the cysts. I go 2 weeks later. It's like you're 6 months. You're 6 weeks pregnant. I'm like, no. This is not the plan. 1, 2, isn't it supposed to be impossible for me to have a child? But I remember we were told this is God's child, this is God's doing. And even when you see the age gap of our kids, they're 6.5 years apart, and obviously you get people telling you, why aren't you having a child, why aren't you? We haven't necessarily been doing anything to not have children from that point on. It's just really been God's plan, God's timing. And obviously there's been points when we've not like I've gotten pregnant and the pregnancy hasn't gone to term. But for me, it's a blessing enough to just know that I have my 2 children, and even after being told by a medical professional that I'm not going to be able to have children, to see that miracle, that testimony, it can only be God. And I think it's happened in a perfect way. So I've named our children the most cliche names for worshipers: praise and worship. So yeah. So our son is Judah Yira Mumba. Judah obviously means praise. Yira means the fear of God. So praise with the fear of God. Yada is Yada Adale. Yada means worship, or others would still say praise. And Adale means noble. So it's a noble worship.
Yes, I think we have had the privilege to be raised both in Christian homes. So I think we have a very, I don't know if I can say, there's a consciousness of God in terms of the family setup and things like that. Obviously, my son, he can't sleep until we pray. Even if we are tired, he will come and
even
knock.
if he dozes off and he wakes up and he knows that we
cry
didn't pray. He'll wake up
cry.
at 2 a.m. and say, you didn't pray for me. So
yes, and yeah, so definitely it's something that's very pivotal in our household. And also, I think my wife has actually even extended that culture by doing the readings of, would you call that a podcast?
Just Bible reading.
Bible reading, yeah. So she does Bible readings every day that we're also privileged to listen to sometimes, but someone is trying to open the door and we're fighting, but yeah. We're in a good space. So yeah,
Our house is a house of prayer. We may not always sit down as a group, as a collective, but when you experience us as a family, you will know that this is a family that has God.
People just come and give her hugs, and I'm just there.
And push him out of the way and give him their phone and say, take a picture of us.
So it took time. Definitely took time for me to adapt and realize that was the assignment. I think once I understood that was the assignment, everything else has just fallen through with ease. Because people still introduce me as Mr. Bwalya. Even just yesterday, I was at a career fair, one of the universities. This guy says, Mr. Bwalya, how are you? I was like, it's actually Mr. Mumba. So it's something I don't want to, let me say I have gotten used to it, or I have adapted to it because I understand the assignment. Yeah.
I think it's become such a part of, I think, everyone's life. It's really just he's a career man. It's just an issue of us making sure that we maintain relevance in each other's lives by just being involved in whatever the other person is doing. So For me, the difference is just that my work is public, and I'm known to the public. He's got a very busy workload as well. So sometimes it will also take time away from us. But obviously people see my end of things, they don't see his end. So really it's just about how we come back home together and regroup and say, okay, we're home. How was your day? What are you up to? How are things? Are you okay? And checking in with each other. I think God has given us the grace. It's really mostly been the grace of God, to be honest, because sometimes it's hard sometimes where you're like away from family, you come back, but we try to balance each other out, hold each other down whenever we need to. And God, it's really by the grace.
Yeah, and
God.
I think another thing is God has really blessed us with children that understand. They're young, but it's just shocking how they would not, how can I even put it? Like, you can be away even for a week, but you come back the way you find them the way you left them.
Right.
The same energy, and it's really helped us as well in terms of the schedules that we have. Obviously, if I need to travel, if it's long hours, she needs to go out of the country. So we've really been blessed with kids that I don't even know how to put it, but they sort of understand the assignment on our lives and as a home.
Even and of course we have help.
Age. Yes,
yeah,
and we've been blessed with amazing help.
Amazing help. It's something we pray about, because it's like if we're gonna be away from our children, we need to leave them in the hands of the right person. And by God's grace, obviously we've had moments of try and error, but God eventually has brought the right people who, when you leave the house, you are at peace. You're not, your work is not affected because you know that the kids are in safe hands. Yeah.
Okay. My profession is a lot of conflict management. By profession, I'm an HR practitioner, so grievance procedures, it's an everyday thing. But it's always me being the third person. So it's easy for me to say, you need to follow the process, this. But when I'm in that situation, it's different, I'll be very honest, especially in the context of marriage. But one thing that I have learned, and I am still learning, I'll be very honest, is communication. I think there's one thing that I'm really, really learning from my wife is communication. You can even hear how she speaks. She's very articulate and very flawless. But communication is very important in conflict resolution. But before you communicate, I think it's very important to understand the root cause of whatever it is that the conflict has come from, because you will be talking the whole time, but you're just cutting the branches and not finding the root cause of the situation. So it's also important when you're dealing with conflict, or when we're dealing with conflict, to introspect and say, okay, really, why am I mad? Is it really about that towel or that shit that I've put aside? But is it something? So it's very important to step back. Most of the times when we're dealing with conflict, introspect, but communication is everything in terms of the conflict management process. Yeah. There's so many things, I don't even know what to pick. I think one thing that I appreciate her is she always brings out the best in me. That's number one. Number two, what else I appreciate about her? There's so many things. Trying to pick the right one. But I think the second thing is she chose to be with me.
He's an amazing father. He's a very, very present father. I love watching him be a dad to our kids. It's sometimes I even feel inadequate, because I feel like he's the better parent amongst the two of us. The second thing I like about my husband is the fact that he's a very calm person, and I think so growing up in an environment where there's first of all, I'm in a Bemba household, so there's a lot of talking that's happening in a Bemba household. But the way God has designed me is to just have amicable and peaceful conversations, and that just makes it very easy for me to be able to communicate with him, knowing that I'm not going to be faced with battle and hostility. It's easy for me to just be like, okay, can we have a conversation about this? And he makes it easy for me to just also want to be a better person in terms of my personality. Yeah. I It's a lot. You know how sometimes you hear something so much you almost can't become familiar with it, but I actually do like to hear it. Like every time he texts me when he's at work, he'll be like, or even when he answers the phone, he'll be like, "Hey, beautiful." Yeah, I love it. Does something to me when he says, "Hey, beautiful," and then, wow. I just love being able to just have conversations with him. It feels good, when you sit down with your partner and just can talk and just about the most random things. I can't pinpoint like a specific word. One of my love languages is words of affirmation, so I can't say a word. So for me, it's just being affirmed in different ways, also like verbally or orally, whatever it is. It will make my day. Just even come and tell me, oh, the strands of your hair look amazing. That will make my day. If you tell me you look amazing in that shirt, that will make my day. It's little random sweet nothings.
Wow. She says a lot of nice things. So, I'll try to categorize though. But I like to hear. I like to hear that she always has my back. She says it sometimes not even just with the words, but a lot of other ways she communicates. And also, I like to hear when she says, "I love you."
Yeah. I love you.
I love you too. Oh. I'll let you go first. I think she deals with more.
I won't say a couple per se. Have I counseled a couple together? I think so, a long time ago. But yes. I get a lot of young women in my DMs who come for help, and actually most of them are people dealing with abusive relationships, usually physical violence. And for me, my stance with that is just step away from that environment and then seek counsel from your church. And sometimes it's difficult sometimes to just tell someone, do this, do that, because they also have places that they're coming from where they're accountable.
Easier said than done.
But I will also give advice coming from a place where I work with advocacy organizations that deal with GBV. And for me, if you're in an environment that's unsafe, if you're being beaten, you're being treated badly, my first advice would be find a safer space for you to be able to first think well, because 100%. Sometimes when you're inside the situation, it's difficult to make decisions. We do have random, so this is the thing about us. I think we don't necessarily have a ministry where we're sitting down couples, we're having an event and whatnot, but every now and again we find ourselves in situations where young couples in a random place, maybe I had gone for ministry, someone will ask a question and all of a sudden it turns into a teaching of some sort. So then they start to ask questions and we share. So I think our ministry almost happens like the way Jesus would be hanging out with the disciples, and then people just gather around and start asking questions. That's kind of how our marriage ministry works. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think safe space is important. But in finding the safe space, let them seek the right help, depending on obviously the nature of the abuse. And I know it's easier said than done, But the encouragement is always speak up, find, and that's the importance of also being part of a community, part of a local church, part of a fellowship, part of authorities that are able to give you the right counsel and the right direction. So for those that have that community, please use that community. For those that don't have that community, try and reach out to communities that you know will be able to help you through such situations. But overall, we have to seek the kingdom first, seek God first, and everything else will be in place.
December 13th. Should I say the year? Monday.
No.
December 13th.
14th October.
We are... Yes and no. I think we're developing a culture because our son is big.
Oof.
He's
shockingly big on birthdays.
Yeah, so and it's kind of like
shockingly big
now working upwards towards us. And I think also like just growing, as you grow in marriage, you start to discover that certain things are not necessarily just there because it's a tradition. Certain things are systems of preservation. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's it might seem like it's just the day that you were born, but like it's little things like that that you put effort into that kind of spill back into the marriage because you're investing energy out of love, not necessarily out of ability. Yeah, so it spills back into the marriage. So you find that, okay, maybe we're not big on celebrating Valentine's, but what's the essence of it? You know, yes, we can tell each other we love each other every day, but there's a special day that's dedicated. Can we do something special? Yeah. How will it affect? Is it going to affect our marriage positively? Yes. Then it's worth putting effort into. So I think that's where it goes back into when you see like birthdays.
I think God has been speaking to us through our son. Well, me personally, I come from a background where we never were big on birthdays. It's culturally so, and it sort of spilled over also in our marriage and things like that. But our son is like, no, he literally would make a card for everyone. Like he would draw it from scratch. Even his teachers, his what.
He has a calendar. He marks people's
He knows
birthdays.
This is my. He's so
passionate
about celebrating life, and I think we've learned from him that we need to do the same. So it's something I think we have now gotten to speed to in terms of just doing something special. Hi, I'm John.
Hi, I'm Chileshe.
We are the Mumbas, and this is how we met.